Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope, and this video we're going to go through my chip strategy for basically the end of the season in FPL. We're getting into the home stretch where we got a plan for the doubles and blanks and all the other chips that we're going to use in FPL. So I want to take you through what I think is going to be my plan for like the next 10-12 game weeks where you need to use all your chips basically, or most of your chips at least. So first and foremost, I'm going to go through my Gameweek23 score. Just give you a bit of an update on where I stand in FPL currently, and then I'm going to go through using the nice FPL.team website. I'm going to go through all the game weeks coming up and see what my current plans are in terms of transfers and in terms of chips being used. So yeah, let's just go straight into it with the Game Week 23 score, which was finally, for the first time in a while, a good game week for me. Finally a green arrow. I gone up from around 210k to 145k. Really happy about that. Really nice development, and that was helped a lot by my transfers. I did Bruno Fernandes to Mbeumo. That got me 4 extra points because Mbeumo scored 7 points. Fernandes got 3. And I also, with the money that I spared there, I could do Joao Pedro to Cody Gakpo, and that was probably one of my best transfers so far this season because I had 1 point that I would have had from Joao Pedro if I had kept him, but instead I got 16 points from Gakpo, which was absolutely amazing to see. 2 goals, 1 assist. He looks super nailed with Liverpool now. He played and got 16 points and then got subbed off like pretty early, which means that he gets rested and stuff as well. So playing time's looking good. The points are looking good. 75 points in total because it was a pretty good game week, mostly down to Gakpo and then Mbeumo actually. So yeah, really happy about the game week and my decisions leading up into it, basically. So I feel pretty confident about my plans going forward now because I have had finally a good game week again, finally getting into the groove of things again, and I think I'm going to do pretty well for the end of the season, hopefully. But yeah, when it comes to my game week, I'm just going to go through the team quickly. Sanchez in goal, 2 points as always. He just keeps conceding. Don't really care about him anymore, but I've kept him. Like I did think about doing Sanchez to Alisson instead. That would have not gained me like 0 extra points. I think Alisson got 2 points, if I'm not mistaken. And that would have basically cut me out of getting Gakpo entirely. So I'm very happy that I decided to stay with Sanchez, even though I'm not happy with Sanchez as my goalkeeper. But this is why I always say goalkeeper transfers aren't really worth it that much. But yeah, you're going to see some goalkeeper transfers, or one goalkeeper transfer at least, in this video as well. But that's in later weeks, and that's pertaining to the double game week that's coming up eventually later on in the season, basically. But yeah, in defense, Trent Alexander-Arnold got an assist. Looked like he was going to get a clean sheet and some bonus points as well. Then they conceded really late to Ipswich corner, so a bit of bad luck there in terms of Trent, but at least I got 5 points. Gabriel, clean sheet, 7 points from him. Really nice to see it. Munoz got an assist as well, which was interesting because it did sort of delete some points from Mbeumo. So I think in the end, the assist gained me 0 points. Like I got 3 points from the assist from Munoz, but I got also 1 clean sheet point removed from Mbeumo, and he also missed out on 2 bonus points because of that. And another thing where I think OptaStats had it as a missed chance from Mbeumo, even though it wasn't him missing the chance. And by the time that FPL had like finalized their points and their bonus points for the game week, Opta had changed their statistics, and if that metric had stood now, Mbeumo would have had 2 extra points. But Mbeumo in general, pretty lucky to get those 7 points. He got a penalty, which is not really that lucky because you get penalties sometimes with penalty takers. That's why you buy penalty takers. But he missed the first penalty, but he got to retake it because Mark Guehi was a bit too early into the box because of the stutter step from Mbeumo, basically. So Mbeumo was able to take the penalty again, and he scored. So instead of getting a penalty miss and minus 2 points, I got a penalty goal and plus 5 points. So even though he missed out on 2 bonus points, kind of unnecessarily or unfairly, I guess, I don't really have any reason to complain because 7 points was more than what I should have had from that game, probably from Mbeumo. But yeah, that's what happens sometimes. Then we have Salah, who scored a goal and got 16 points as my captain. Not quite as much as Gakpo. He got half of the points of Gakpo, but I was never going to captain Gakpo. I was always going to keep Salah as my captain, and finally, he returned after 2 blanks in a row in Game Week 22 and Game Week 21. So really happy with that. Palmer blanked again, 2 points from him against Man City. Had a pretty good chance to score. Passed it to Nicholas Jackson instead, and Nicholas Jackson tried to pass it back and it led to nothing. So Palmer is looking a bit worse lately, but I still think he is someone worth keeping, at least for now. So yeah, I'm not really too worried about him. I'm more worried about Ismail Assar, who once again looked pretty bad. Was subbed off after just about an hour, got 2 points barely. And then his replacement, Romain Esse, like the new signing for Crystal Palace, actually scored coming on as well. So Sar is not looking that good for the future. I'm not going to play him next game week, and I'm probably going to sell him in the game week after that. So yeah, he's probably on the outsar, and he's been a pretty big disappointment since I brought him into my team. I thought he was going to be good. He had good underlying stats. Palace looked good. He had really good fixtures, but it just hasn't been working out really. Then Morgan Rogers playing against West Ham only got 1 point. He got a yellow card from like a stupid challenge. And then he was subbed off pretty early after that. So he's another player that I'm looking to get rid of pretty soon, but he has some pretty good fixtures in the next few game weeks. So I'm probably going to keep him for a little bit more. But Rogers also is someone that it's not going to be in my team forever, like I hoped that he would be, because he's my only still remaining Game Week 1 player that I still have in the team. So yeah, going to be a sad day when I sell him, but I think that day is getting closer and closer basically. Up front, Isak with 13 points back in amongst the goals against Southampton. Not that surprising. He is just an amazing striker, Isak. So yeah, no wonder he scored again. 13 points from him. And then Gakpo to 16 points, which was absolutely amazing. Really happy to see that. On the bench, Fabianski, he's not playing now. He's not the starting goalkeeper anymore for West Ham, which is surprising to me. I was pretty sure he was going to be the starting goalkeeper for the end of the season. But that is Graham Potter. He does tend to sub or change the goalkeepers around sometimes. He's still not like definitive on who's the starting goalkeeper or not between Fabianski and Areola, but yeah, not really the best side going forward. That means that I'm a bit more unsure about my goalkeepers in general going forward, because Sanchez might also lose his place because he played terribly against Man City. The second goal that they conceded was basically his fault because he came out for no reason and left the goal open. So I'm not too confident in Sanchez being the starting goalkeeper for Chelsea going forward. Fabianski lost his place now in this game week, so the goalkeeper position is a bit of an issue, and I could potentially address that in this upcoming game week, but I still think that I'm going to just keep Sanchez until he's benched, until there's a sign that he's not going to be the number 1 goalkeeper anymore. And at that point, I probably have to do a goalkeeper transfer at some point, basically. Mykolenko on the bench, 6 points. Kept a clean sheet against Brighton, surprisingly for me, but at least all my other defenders did get points as well. Cunha with another blank for him. He has really tough matches, and I'm just basically keeping him just because of future game weeks, as you'll see eventually in this video. And then Castagna as well, also conceded pretty late against Man United, even though Fulham once again looked pretty good defensively. But Castagna, the one thing with him, as we'll see in this video as well, he's not going to be there for long because Kenny Tete is going to come back at some point, and at that point, Castagna is probably going to lose his place in the starting lineup. So that's a bit of a worry for me. Kind of annoyed that I didn't go for Anderson instead, but that was basically for the game week that I brought him into when Anderson wasn't ready to play, and Castagna got me 6 points. So that's basically why I brought Castagna rather than Anderson back then. But yeah, I wish I had Anderson because he's a more safe player going forward, but yeah, that's also something that I might have to address in future game weeks. But with the old game week out of the way, let's go into my plans for the next few game weeks. And again, this is more about the chip strategy and less about basically what transfers I will do and stuff, but I will go through the transfers that I plan to do as well. For this next game week, no transfers needed. I'm only going to activate the triple captaincy chip, as you can see on Mohamed Salah there, with the double game week against Bournemouth and Everton away. Not the easiest double game week, but I still think Salah and Liverpool are that good, and I just have to, when he's in such good form still, even though he's been a bit less in good form lately, I just need to back Salah in a double game week. So this is my chance. I'm going to use the triple captaincy chip in 24, and that's final basically. The rest of the team looking really good. Triple Liverpool, the Gakpo, Salah, Trent Alexander-Arnold ideal triple up. Really like that. And Mykolenko in defense as well. Could get Pickford in for Sanchez. I actually can't afford that. So yeah, I'm probably just going to stay away from another Everton player. Not really feeling Ndiaye too much in the striker positions, and I'm pretty happy with Cunha, Isak, and Gakpo. And I don't really want another Everton player. So yeah, I'm going to let that game week slide just with the triple captaincy chip. No transfers used. Then game 25, we have Ismail Assar playing against Everton at home. Normally a pretty good game week for him, or a pretty good game for him, but I'm just not sure I can trust him anymore. So most likely, unless he really impresses me in game week 25 when he plays Man United, he could do really well here and show that he's worth keeping. But most likely, and what is something that a lot of people will do, is subbing out a midfielder for a player in the most informed team, as it looks like in Premier League, in Bournemouth. So I think I'm going to go with Kluivert, but again, I have 0.1 in the bank. Kluivert and Sarr are now the same price, basically, so I don't really have too much room to spare here when it comes to price changes. They just changed prices, by the way, so Sarr went down in price and Kluivert went up in price. So it's going to take a bit before the price changes again, but if I can't afford Kluivert at this point, I can just go ahead and get his teammates in Dango Ouattara as well, who scored a hat-trick now and looks pretty good as well for this game against Southampton. So I do have the money for that. just in case, but my priority is getting Kluivert because he's on penalties and stuff. I do think he's like a slightly better pick if you have the money compared to Dango, but if needs must, then I would go with Dango for this game week. And it doesn't really matter too much because Gameweek 26, which is the next game week after that, looking to sell Rodgers. He has really tough fixtures at this point of the season, so I'm looking to sell him. Also, he's not the best when it comes to the doubles and blanks and stuff. And again, I think Bournemouth is the team to target here. So if I do get Dango in Game Week 25, I can still get Kluivert in this game week because at that point I will have saved the money because Sar and Rodgers are worth more than Dango and Kluivert in total. So whether I get Kluivert in 25 or 26 doesn't really matter too much. I'm going to have probably double Bournemouth with Dango and Kluivert, both playing sort of as strikers in the system that Bournemouth are playing now. So pretty happy about that going forward. Looking at the fixture for Bournemouth as well. Really nice fixtures. They also play in 29 in case I need that. They're going to get to that later and what I'm going to do in Game 29 at some point. But yeah, in case I need it, I have Brentford players there. And they also are most likely set to double as well. In Game Week 33, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see if I actually activated the projected fixtures. I haven't actually. So yeah, as you can see here, they are projected to still keep their game in Game Week 29 and also double in Game Week 33 against Palace and Man United. So Bournemouth players are looking really good, like regardless of your strategy. And at this point, I'm not quite sure what my strategy would be, but I'm still leaning towards one strategy. But regardless, Bournemouth are like the best team to target for Game Week 25 onwards because they have really good fixtures, especially starting here with Southampton away and all these fixtures that you can see here. Southampton away, Wolves at home, Brighton away, Spurs away, Brentford at home, Ipswich at home. Like it's really good fixtures all the way up until Game Week 33 for Bournemouth. So that's really a nice team to target. So yeah, looking to bring in Dango and Kluivert for these game weeks. Then we're going to have the next few game weeks, Game Week 27 and 28. Looking to save transfers here if I can. Hopefully Sanchez is still the goalkeeper and has these games against Southampton and Leicester here where I can play him in. But if he's, for example, if he's dropped, I could just go and sell him and buy Henderson, for example, who plays for Crystal Palace, who has like pretty decent games in the next few game weeks at least. So that could be my option out of Sanchez if he doesn't play at this point of the season, basically. But yeah, I'm just looking to save transfers. I think my team is looking pretty good in general here at this moment in time. Probably would start Kluivert over Dango if I had to choose between the two. And I would probably just start one of them. I would still start these against Liverpool. But again, the lineups aren't that important. It's more about the transfers and the chip strategy in this video. So yeah, Game 28 as well. Don't really have any transfer plans, but I'm going to have some transfers to spare as well. As you can see at this point, 4 transfers extra. So if I need to do a transfer, maybe I need to switch my backup goalkeeper in case something happens as well. Maybe Castani has lost his place. Maybe I can switch him out for Anderson. I could actually do that here as well, just to prove a point basically that I have transfers to spare that I can use that I don't really need to use. But if I need to, I could always do that and have a starting player for Fulham here rather than Castania, because that's going to be slightly important in the next few game weeks, basically. But yeah, looking to save as many transfers as possible in these game weeks, including Game Week 27 and Game Week 28. So ideally, I'd have 5 transfers available for Game Week 29, which could either make me basically set up a team of starting players. I could try to do transfers here and get like a starting 11 that looks good. But personally, I think Game Week 29 for me is looking best with a free hit in the blank game week. And I know that was basically the game week that a lot of people burned themselves using free hit last season, me included. I was one of the big proponents of using free hit in Game Week 29 last season, and in hindsight, that was a mistake, I guess, because Game Week 29 last season was with only 4 fixtures, so only 8 teams playing, and the best team out of those teams was Spurs at home to Fulham, which is where we all loaded up on Spurs players. But as we know, Spurs under Postecoglou aren't really that good, and Fulham under Marco Silva are actually pretty good. So we all got burnt in that game week, and then game week 33 or 34 or whatever it was, the double game week last season, ended up being really nice for the double game week free hitters as well. So I think even though last season it was a mistake to free hit in 29, things will change for this season. I think a lot of managers will think back to last season and sort of be a bit scared of using free hit. I've seen a couple content creators now being a bit afraid of using the free hit in 29 like they did last year, just because they were burnt by what happened last year. But I don't think that should dictate what happens this year, in my opinion, because if you look at the fixtures here, Man City against Brighton at home, I really want triple up with Man City here because I think at this point, I think they're going to be a really good attacking team still, at least. Like they've shown some really good attacking qualities this season. Man United against Leicester, I don't have any Man United players in my original squad here. They have a tough fixture the game week before. Playing against Leicester, that's a fantastic fixture for them. I want Man United players. Nottingham Forest players, I don't have any Nottingham Forest players. They have really tough fixtures going into this. And they play Ipswich. That's looking good. And even the players that I do have, like players from Crystal Palace, for example, have Ipswich before and Southampton after, even though they blank in this game week. Aston Villa have like okay matches on each side of the blank as well. Liverpool, you want to have Liverpool players and then you want to swap them out and then you want to have them back in again for 30. So I think Game Week 29 is just the best game week to use free hit this season as well. So ideally that's what I'm going to do, but just in case something happens and it looks tough to navigate Game Week 34, for example, which is the other blank game week, then I could do, with the extra transfers that I have, I could do transfers here and get a starting 11 of players. Basically, you can sell Munoz, sell Trent, and do stuff like that. But ideally, I do a free hit here, and I can actually show you how good of a team you can get with a free hit, basically. Like you can just sub out as many players as you want. So you can get Foden, you can get, for example, rather than Palmer playing in Arsenal away, you can get Bruno Fernandes, you can get De Bruyne even if you want to, you can get Haaland here up front. You can swap out a Fulham player against the Spurs and then get, for example, Ait Nouri, who has Southampton this game week. You can sell Mikolenko. You can get, for example, Ola Aina from Nottingham Forest playing against Ipswich away. That's a good fixture. In goal as well, Man United have good fixtures. You can get Onana in here. You can still save money. You don't really have to worry about the money in the bank because you can just sell players here and bring in, for example, Chris Wood up front. Like there's so many things I can do with this team, with the transfers that I get for free with the free hit, where I can make this team really, really strong. So yeah, I'm not going to go way too much into detail of this. That's going to be saved more for Game 29. But yeah, you can sell Trent as well, and then you have more than enough money in the bank to do whatever you'd like. Basically, you can get triples City, as I can show you here, with Guardiola as well as a defender. Could do that and have like a really, really strong team for this game week with like 8, 9, 10, 11 transfers here and make it completely different to my own team, but I still get to keep the players in Game Week 30 onwards. Because as you know, the players that are blanking in Game Week 29 will double in Game Week 33. So that's going to be a huge plus for keeping the players past Game Week 29 as well. Don't have to use the wildcard in Game Week 30 to bring those players back, as most other people would do. So I just think the free hit Game Week 29 strategy is the best strategy, basically. So yeah, at this point we're at Game Week 30. This is where I would want, if Sanchez keeps his place, hopefully I'll have him until this game week, and then I would swap him out for a player that will be pretty important to use later on, and that would be Nick Pope, because at this point you want to load up on Newcastle players, especially because they have some pretty good fixtures, as you can see. Brentford at home, Leicester away, Man United at home, and then they double in Game Week 33 most likely, and they will also play in blank Game Week 34. So getting Newcastle players in for this run of games is really, really nice, because they tick all the boxes. They have double in 33 and they play in 34, which is ideally what you want. But we still don't really know what's going to happen in Game Week 34. Let's go down to the fixture ticker again here. As you can see here, in Game Week 33 and Game Week 34, like Game Week 33, we have a pretty good idea who's going to double, because that's going to be the teams that are blanking in Game Week 29 mostly, and some extra teams like Bournemouth, for example, if they do blank in 34. But we don't know if they're going to blank in 34, because that's basically down to what happens in the FA Cup, pretty much. So yeah, 33 we know pretty well who's going to blank or not, at least by the time we get to these game weeks, when we know who's going to go through to the final of the League Cup. The Game Week 34 is still very much up in the balance. We don't really know who's going to blank, who's going to play. This fixture ticker is basically if all the favorites go through all the time and don't face each other in the initial rounds in the FA Cup, which we don't really know if it's going to happen. There's always going to be changes. Personally, I think this is like in mind where the most amount of teams possible blank in Game Week 34. I think 34 is going to be a bit easier to navigate than what we think from this fixture ticker and what we can assume at this point, because there's always crazy things that happens in the FA Cup. Sometimes a team from the Championship or something goes through all the way to the semifinals because they face like easier teams in the lead up or stuff like that. So yeah, I think Game 34 is going to be easier to navigate, at least with my team, than Game 29 would be, or at least I think the team that I could have in 34 without a free hit is stronger than the team that I can get in Game 29 without a free hit. But yeah, like I mentioned, Newcastle players are really nice to have for this part of the season if everything falls down as we assume in this instance, basically. So yeah, Nick Pope in goal would be really nice, but again, Henderson wouldn't be the worst either. He at least plays Southampton. Brighton at home is also a decent fixture for clean sheet. City, not the best fixture, but that's sometimes what you have to live with at the goalkeeper position, basically. And then the double in 33, and they play in 34 as well, Crystal Palace. So if I can't afford Pope, then I would go for Henderson instead, and then I would probably just go for some other Newcastle players like Hall and Gordon, for example, in midfield and defense in the next upcoming game weeks, pretty much. So those are my plans for game week 30, pretty much. Then in game week 31, this is where we want to activate the assistant manager chip with this strategy, because we have the double game week in 33, where we want to use the assistant manager chip for that game week. And personally, what I'm looking for in this game week is getting in Unai Emery, but as you can see, if I want Unai Emery, he costs 0.8, and I don't have enough money in the bank here. But the good thing about this is that I have another option here as well, and that's selling Mbeumo, who has really tough fixtures at this point. So yeah, he is going to go out of the team. And then with the money that I have here, I would not be able to get Gordon, sadly, but I would be able to get another player, whether that's Eze, who has a double in 33 and also placed in 34 most likely, or at least as we think right now. Or if I want to go back to Rodgers, who could also be a good option at this point. If I'm not mistaken, he has sort of the same thing here as well. No, he doesn't play in 34 actually, but he has good fixtures before that. But yeah, most likely I would go with Eze at this point. And that would fund me or give me enough funds to get in Emery as well, 0.4 in the bank. I still have some leeway there. I might have more, I might have less, depending on what happens with Mbeumo's price, for example. So yeah, I would activate the chip here, and I would also sell Mbeumo to be able to afford the manager here. Because Emery, Nottingham Forest at home, at this point in the season, it could be the case. This is, April 5th, so this is when they're into the quarterfinals of the Champions League. So I think at this point, Aston Villa might be knocked out of all competitions, and they might have used a lot of energy from now until that point in other competitions than the Premier League. So I could easily see Aston Villa still being 5 places behind Nottingham Forest at this point. So this would mean a home game to Nottingham Forest for Aston Villa, who will be fully rested and stuff, hopefully, if they're out of the Champions League, for example, and potentially out of the FA Cup as well. Then we could have a fully rested, really ready to go at home Aston Villa side at home to Nottingham Forest, who we assume obviously Forest are higher up in the table. They most likely or could potentially be 5 places higher than Aston Villa at this point, and that would mean that I would get the bonus points if Aston Villa get a win or a draw in this game. So I think this is looking like a really nice time to get Emery. He also has good fixtures after that in terms of the assistant managership, as we'll see, but I can also do the free transfers, use the free transfers to do some changes with the assistant manager if I don't like the look of Aston Villa at this point as well. But for now, I think Emery is my favorite for this game week to use my assistant managership on. Then we get in game week 32. And here I can basically just let the team be as it is. If I want to, I could do, if I have 5 transfers, for example, at this point of the season, if I don't do the Anderson move earlier, I could do the Anderson move here. I could do Fabianski to Areola, for example, if I want to have a backup goalkeeper. Plenty of things I can do here, but again, just trying to save transfers here. So I would probably just save the transfer. Eze, tough match, but you could also play Dongo here, potentially. Yeah, I don't really know. The players, that's going to change a bit. I have some transfers to spare if I need to do transfers at this point of the season. So yeah, I don't really worry too much about who's going to play and who's not going to play at this point of the season. I would play Mikolenko or Munoz, for example, but don't really have to show you that either. But yeah, Game Week 33 is the double game week. This is the big one where you want to play your double game week players. And at this point of the season, I actually have a pretty strong double game week side. The one transfer here I would probably do is Palmer to Gordon, like I mentioned. That would be my triple up with Newcastle players, who I said are a really good team to have here. Crystal Palace at home, Aston Villa away. And when it comes to Palmer, the thing with him is that he's not really that important at this point of the season, because he has Fulham away, a tough fixture in game 33, then he blanks in game 34, and then from 35 onwards he has pretty tough fixtures as well. So I think this is the point of the season where you could sell Palmer. Chelsea are also looking a bit worse now, and Palmer's looking a bit worse than he did earlier in the season. So I don't mind selling Palmer at this point and losing the value that I have set up in him, because he has really tough fixtures at the end of the season. And honestly, from game 35 onwards, when I'm going to wildcard, I probably want to have Haaland instead, because I think City could be a good play in these game weeks, and then I would have to have the money saved and sell one of the more expensive players in Palmer. So pretty happy about selling Palmer at this point of the season as well, getting double game week players all around. I could do more transfers. You can see I have 5 transfers. I could use them to get like a complete double game week team. Obviously, since I'm using the assistant manager chip here, I can't use bench boost, so I don't really need to worry about the bench here. Gabriel would be like easy to sell because you want to get a double game week player in instead. But honestly, like you could get like a Crystal Palace player that plays a double in 33 and then plays in 34, but Arsenal away in 34, that's not the easiest fixture. Newcastle away in 33, again, that's not the easiest fixture. So instead, I think I would just keep Gabriel because he does play, at least as we assume for now. He is going to play. Arsenal are out of the FA Cup, so we do assume that they're going to play in 34. That's pretty likely that they will, unless Palace goes to the semifinals. So yeah, I think I'm just going to keep Gabriel and have one single game week player here, but then have 10 double game week players and then also double game week assistant manager. I can also use transfer here on the manager if I want and switch him out for someone else. Looking at the fixtures here, there's a lot of options. Aston Villa, again, this could be a good game week. 32 is nice because they most likely will score a lot of goals against Southampton. That's an easy fixture. Even without the bonus, that's going to be probably a lot of good points. And then Newcastle and Liverpool at home, at least. They are playing at home. Could beat both of these teams. They could also be 5 places behind both of these teams as well at this point of the season. So that could be another bonus chance here. So I think Emery is actually the best manager for assistant managership as I see it now, depending on what happens in the future, obviously. But I think he's a pretty good option. But if he's not the best option, I could also switch managers. I could go with the Bournemouth manager, whose name escapes me at this moment in time. Palace away, Man United at home. That's decent, I guess. Palace could go with Glasner playing against Bournemouth, who are probably going to be 5 places above Palace, but it's still a winnable game for Palace. And then Newcastle away, which is also another team that's going to be 5 places above Palace, most likely at this point of the season. Could go with Glasner and Palace if they're looking good at this point. Liverpool, if you want to have easy fixtures, Leicester, and then hopefully that they do well against Aston Villa, you could go with Slot here as well. Man United, decent. Bournemouth are probably 5 places higher than Man United, so bonus potential here. Wolves at home is like goal and clean sheet potential. So there's a lot of good assistant manager options there, but I do think Emery, if Aston Villa are looking good, is still my favorite because I think Aston Villa at home is a really tough team to beat and a team that could actually get some points as well. So yeah, that's Game Week 33. Then we go to Game Week 34, which is the blank game week, and as you can see, the team is a bit lackluster here in terms of players that are playing. I still have Cunha, so that's going to be nice. Anderson is also going to play at this point. He's playing Southampton. That's also pretty nice. So yeah, this is not the worst in terms of getting a fully playing team. I still want to keep Salah. I'm going to keep Salah for the end of the season, most likely, so I want to keep his value. But I can just do some transfers here, bring in some players that have good fixtures. I do already have the triple up on Newcastle playing against Ipswich at home. That's perfect. I could get someone else here. I could get Gakpo out, for example, at this moment in time. And once again, Nottingham Forest are looking pretty good for this game week. Brentford at home would be nice. I could also get Aina here as well for the transfer here, because I am looking to wildcard, obviously, with this tactic in Game 35. So this is just for one game week only, so you don't have to worry too much about the fixtures and stuff. Yeah, Isa captain. What's the last one? Yeah, you still also have a lot of money in the bank, as you can see here. I do have that, so I would also probably just get in Saka, who is probably going to be back at this point in time in season. Crystal Palace at home is a good fixture for Arsenal, as we've seen this season. They beat them twice pretty nicely, so I think Saka could also be a nice player to have for this game week as well. So yeah, 3 transfers out of the 5 used for Game 34, and I do have a starting lineup with this team, at least. That's all I really want from a blank game week, just to have 11 players that play, but also having like pretty good fixtures there. Palace at home for Arsenal players, Ipswich at home for the Newcastle players, Brentford at home for the Nottingham Forest players, Leicester at home for Cunha. Could also bring in, for example, like I could do like the extra transfer of Munoz to Aït-Nouri, for example, and have Leicester at home rather than Arsenal away. But I think I prefer just keeping the transfers for the end of the season. But still, I'm able to use the wildcard here and get a completely new team for Game Week 35, with Game Week 36 in mind, where I want to bench boost and have a team of basically 15 double game week players, and just switch in the players that are having a double game week here. So as you can see here, that could be Aston Villa, Chelsea, Everton, Liverpool, Man City, and Spurs. That's the current outline, at least, for which teams will have a double here. So I could go like super mad and have 15 players with just players from these teams. Fill up some cheap players from Everton, for example. They have good fixtures both in 35 and in 37, so that's a pretty good team to target in terms of the double, if it happens to end up like this. And yeah, Liverpool, Man City, really nice teams, obviously. Spurs, not the best, but yeah, you just have to live with what you have here. So yeah, probably going to try to get 15 starting or 15 players with a double game week here. And I still have some transfers and flexibility for these next upcoming game weeks as well. For the ending game weeks. Game week 38, for example, probably need a lot of transfers, or it would be ideal to have a lot of transfers there to target the teams that are playing for something and teams that are actually going to play their starting, like their best starting 11. So yeah, those are basically my plans. I think the chip strategy is looking pretty good. I think in general, Game Week 29 is just a better game week to use free hits than Game Week 34, at least as it stands now. But we got to see what happens in the future. We don't really know what's going to happen. Hopefully it's going to end well. Hopefully I'm going to be inside the top 10K at this point in the season, but who knows what's going to happen. But for now, at least, this is my tactic and these are my plans. It's going to be a lot more flexible, obviously, because you need to make changes sometimes that you didn't expect. And I'm not expecting the season to go exactly as I planned and outlined here, because that's never how it happens in FPL. But yeah, I think it was nice just to give you like an insight of what to do for the next upcoming game weeks. I think regardless, like the next few game weeks, you can target bringing in Bournemouth players. That will be a pretty safe thing to do regardless of your tactic, whether you want to free hit in 29 or free hit in 34. I think that's a good option. Newcastle players, like I mentioned, that's also a pretty good, nice team to target as well in general, especially after game week 29. They're going to be really good with some good fixtures. So yeah, those are my general thoughts on chip strategy. I'm probably going to have some more videos on that later on once we get more clarity on who's going to blank in Game Week 29, which is going to happen pretty soon. We're going to know who's going to blank in Game Week 29, and also when we know who's going to blank in Game Week 34 as well. That's also going to be really helpful for deciding what we will do with our transfers and chips and stuff going forward. But yeah, I quite like this strategy. Pretty happy with that strategy for me, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time, I guess. So yeah, thank you. Bye bye.